Hi guys, welcome back to my little corner of booktube. So today it's nothing new, it's another book haul. A book haul. Oh my gosh, book haul with what money? With what money? It's another review, and I'm reviewing, drumroll please, ow 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 ow, girl in pieces. Yeah, so the lighting is gonna be weird, so I'm just gonna put a graphic here. I'll put the book in front of me so I know that I'm reviewing it. But yeah, anyways, let's just get it started. So Girl in Pieces was written by Kathleen Glasgow, and she wrote this book because she wanted to write about, self-harm and basically like the lasting scars and the effects that can happen with self-harm, and that like a lot of people may think that they're alone in this, but there's actually other people who self-harm, and there's other people who are recovering from that, and and that she just wanted to share her experience through a fictional account, with different characters of course, but similar things to what she went through. And yeah, so she just wanted to be a voice for people who struggle with like self-harm, depression, those things. But yeah, anyways, so let me get started. I think the whole concept was interesting. The whole book starts off with our main character Charlie like in a bloody mess in front of a hospital, and I think a guard finds her, and he's like, what happened to you? And so I think it was on a cold day that the guard found her, and then they hauled her into the hospital, fixed her up because I think she was going to try to commit suicide, or she almost committed suicide. But yeah, so I think I think she almost committed suicide because she lives in Seed House, and Seed House is basically a place where this one guy who she calls effing Frank, that's what she always just says, effing Frank, and I'm just like, profanity, the amount of times. Anyway, that's gonna be that next segment. Anyways, so Seed House is where this guy Frank basically rules, and for men I don't remember the criteria for guys. I think guys can come in and come out, but if girls want to live in Seed House, they need to pay with their bodies. They have to become sex workers, so that they can please the men that come into Seed House, and so that they can have a place to live, food to eat, water to drink. So not great circumstances to be living under. Yeah. And I don't think she ever did get involved in any of those, but I'm not sure. I really don't know, but I do know that through Seed House she was self-harming a lot, to cope. Basically, it's the only thing that helped her to calm down and to get back at ease. But obviously the after effects of that is scars, it's bruises, it's pain, it's all of these things. And also she also used to be homeless. She was homeless for a while, because like her mom, her dad died off the pages. He died before this book begins, and her mom did not deal with this death very well at all. And I don't think Charlie, her real name is Charlotte, but Charlie dealt with the death well either. The mom just kind of like closed up and became a very abusive mother to her child, Charlie. Pardon. And obviously that affected her in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. But yeah, that affected her in so many different ways, where I think she probably ended up running away, and that's how she ended up on the streets. And it was just a very dark time. She did end up meeting two other people on the streets who are drug addicts, two guys. They are drug addicts. So she kind of was running with everybody's a mess crowd, two drug addicts, and then we got her, who's a runaway, who is she a runaway? I don't know if she's a runaway, if she got kicked out of home. I don't know. I don't know if it was actually completely clear in the book. But anyways, overall this whole book is just about dealing with self-harm and the effects of that. Because after she gets moved to the hospital and gets treated, she gets put into this like mental facility for people who struggle with self-harm, whether it's cutting, whether it's burning, whether it's or poking or whatever. So it was all the different people that were there had their own self-harm issues. I don't know much about self-harm, but I learned a little bit from it through this book. Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard because to calm yourself, you have to cause pain to yourself. Like that's interesting because it's like because I want to know, where do people learn this from? Or like, how does this develop within a person? Because I don't know much about self-harm, so I'm just coming from more. I got questions. Anyone who's struggled with this, please give me answers. Like, how did this come about? Did you hear this from someone, or did this just one day you accidentally cut yourself and you were calm after you were really anxious or really depressed or something, and then you thought, wow, this is going to be like therapy to me? But sadly, it causes the scars, it causes pain, it causes a lot of issues. I just want to understand more because yeah, it's confusing for someone who has never self-harmed or really knows much about self-harm. But yeah, and we also see that like she was only there for a short period of time before like the people outside of the facility could not pay for her to stay in the facility, so they were like, it's time to move, time to get out. And that opens up a whole floodgate of questions, because I'm like, this is wrong. Like, I think we all know that was just wrong, because when you read the book, she was not ready to leave. She was not ready to leave the facility. She had a lot of work that needed to be done before she could leave. So this just opens up a whole freaking situation of, is it right for us even to be paying for these things? Like, because I'm like, this girl is literally slowly destroying herself, but she has to pay in order for her to get the resources and facilities in order for her to get better. And then even there, if you don't have enough money, sorry, get back into the world. What is that? Like that just didn't feel right to me. That felt absolutely and utterly wrong. Like something was off. That should not have happened. And the problem with this is that that's the kind of stuff that happens in this world. If you don't have enough money to pay for your therapist or your psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, tough luck. Sorry, I can't help you. And something don't sit right with me about that, because it's like, you have the tools to help this person, but you're not going to because you're not getting paid. I just I don't know how to reconcile that, because I want to be a psychologist, but like something just doesn't sit right. Like, because now I'm wondering, once I get my degree, whenever that's gonna be, should people be paying me? Because this doesn't sit. I don't know, something's not right. You can clearly see someone is literally deteriorating, and if you don't take a course of action, they could die. But you just let them go down that terminal, because it's like, I'm sorry, I don't have you're not paying me, right? Obviously, I don't think this is the attitude that at least the person who was helping her, Casper, had, but it's just the whole institution as a whole. That's definitely the attitude I was getting. So you don't pay me, sorry, can't do nothing. That just sounds wrong. So that's just a whole other conversation. Maybe there's another, I don't know, there's something that needs to be, I don't know, because I understand, like, okay, the psychologists, psychiatrists, the doctors, these people went to school to learn these things. I understand that, but I'm like, isn't there a way for the doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, these people, therapists, counselors, to get paid and it not have to come out of the pocket of the patient. Yeah, I just, oh, some don't sit right. Anyways, moving on, she gets back into the world. She tries to, not fall back into old habits, but unfortunately, inevitably, she wasn't there long. She did not get a very strong structure in any of these things, unfortunately. So she eventually starts slipping back into her old ways, drinking, smoking. She never gets to self-harming again. Praise God, she never gets back to self-harming, but she's close. Oh wait, no, what am I saying? She does. Close to the end of the book, she does. But for the most of the time, she's trying very hard to restrain herself from doing that. She tries to do these things, exercises that Casper has taught her. But unfortunately, they don't compare to cutting. They don't compare to cutting away, like the way that it was described is like cutting away all your problems. It doesn't compare. But she does try. And then she gets into a toxic relationship with a guy who is 10 years older than her. With a guy who's 10 years older than her, who was supposed to be like this rock star, because when it comes to music, beautiful. But he's a mess. He's a drug addict. So obviously now taking someone who's really struggling with her mental health in terms of feeling empty, being depressed, and self-harming, a recovering self-harming person, and then a drug addict and an alcoholic, all mix those together, and it's just absolute toxicity to the finest. Her going on drug runs for him, so that because she's like, oh well, I love you, so maybe if I do these things for you, then you treat me with the things that I want. And it's just unfortunate, because like she likes this other guy, Mikey, who was like a right person, the right guy. He's proper in all these ways. He doesn't self-harm, he's not a drug addict, he's not an alcoholic, he's not all these things, but he ends up with someone else. And in this book at the beginning, they talk about like people like us, we never get with guys like him. And that just broke my heart, absolutely and utterly. Like that just broke my heart, because it's like, no, please don't think like that. Like people who are absolutely and utterly chaos, like internally, should not be in a relationship. All right. So even if Mikey was like, I like you, Charlie, I would have, if they got together, she would have destroyed the relationship. She would have. I don't think that, at least where she was, different day, different outfit, storage issues. Anyways, so I do not think it would have been a good idea for her to even be in a relationship anyways, because there's a lot of working on herself that she needs to do before she gets into a relationship, because relationships are hard and they require a lot from people. They require self-sacrifice in certain areas, and you have to be willing to grow. You have to be willing to be stretched. You have to be willing to be wrong, and you also need to be able to stand your ground on certain things, right? Because relationships aren't always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes they're amazing, and other times they're tough and they're hard. So I just don't think it would have been a good idea for her to be in a relationship anyways. But yeah, anyway, so we see for most of this book just how like mentally she's not doing well. She tries, she gets a job and she works as a dishwasher, she washes dishes, but she also got into this job because of her man's Riley, who is the guy she's in a toxic relationship with. And his real name's not Riley West. His name is Riley West because they changed it because he was in a band and they thought it would all be cool if everybody had the last name West, so he changed his name to Riley West. But his real name is actually showcased like at the end of this book, or close to the end of the book. It's Erwin David Baxter. That's his real name. And at least these two characters do kind of have a mini arc, going into the right direction, because like I said, like the book does end in a hopeful tone. It does end in a hopeful way that things can get better. We're not really shown the full brunt of things getting better, but we are shown at least that things started to improve. Not completely, everything's not completely better, but we do see things improving, showcasing again that there is hope. And a lot of the times in this book, she feels so empty and she feels so like depressed, and she just comes to the end of herself. And I personally am like, that's where you need God. I'm like, that's where you need God, that's where you need Jesus. Because I personally think like when you come to such a place, or even if you don't come to such a place, all of us have a God-sized hole in our hearts that only God can fill. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, it's just unfortunate though that, like, throughout all of this, that she was battling with a lot of these things on her own. And then even when she did try to get better, because of the people that she had around her, she inevitably ended up going back to the things that she didn't want to do. Like she didn't want to drink, she didn't want to smoke, she didn't want to go into that. But because of the people around her, doing those things, she was like, you know what, screw it, And one thing that's also really cool though is that she's an artist. And I was just like wondering why, like throughout this whole book, when she did want to cut, when she did want to self-harm, I was like, instead of doing the breathing exercises, instead of counting to this or doing all these different things, why don't you draw? I was wondering that, because I was like, it seems like drawing is a very therapeutic thing for you. It seems like sketching and all that seems to be quite therapeutic for you. So I was wondering why she didn't do that for most of the book. At the end of the book, she does eventually start like drawing and like creating a story, and she does meet people in this mental facility that one person specifically she does see outside of the facility, and they even live together for a while. Blue, her real name is Patsy. Interesting. And I thought, like, when I was reading this, that Blue was like in like the round about the same age as her, a teenager or maybe early 20s. Kanti Blue's well over in her 30s, and I was like, what? Oh, she's almost 30. I was like shocked. I was like, wow, okay, so like these two people like mentally are like kind of around about the same place, but their age-wise they are there's a gap. So I thought that was so interesting, because the way that Blue was being described and stuff in this book was definitely not giving. It was not giving, yeah, I'm almost 30 or I am 30. I was like, wait, what? And then also the whole time I'm not sure. Like, this is why I wish books did more when it came to like the descriptions of the people they're writing about, because I actually have no idea what ethnicity she is. Because at the beginning she had locks, right? She had locks, but like obviously I know that people who are not black can also have locks, but I just assumed she was black. But then they talked about her having blonde hair, and I was like, wait, so is this blonde hair your natural hair, or is it what you dyed your hair to become? I was like so confused. So I have no idea what the ethnicity of these people is. I was like just so confused with that. And then also one thing that also really dragged it down and actually was making me tempted to actually DNF this book is the first 60 to 80 pages has like profanity on almost every single page. And this was like when it was still doing this like diary / flow of conscious type of writing, because at the beginning the chapters were like very, very short, like 1 page, 2 pages, and that's a chapter. But then as you progress in the story, the chapters become longer. Some chapters are still short, but most of them are a bit longer now. We're getting 5 to 7 to 12 pages per chapter kind of thing. They're not completely consistent, but most chapters do become longer as you progress in the story, versus like the first less than 100 pages. The chapters are very short, 1 page, 2 pages, that's the chapter. So I was like thinking, oh, this seems to kind of be like a diary, kind of narrative at the beginning, but then as you go on it becomes more more like a story, and all that kind of stuff. So I was just like struggling that's first 60 to 80 pages because of the amount of profanity. It was like on every single page multiple times. And like for me, profanity, whenever people swear, whenever people curse, it literally just feels like mentally it's like people are taking sharp objects and just like throwing it at my head the whole time, so it literally hurts my brain. And when people swear too much around me, or if I read too much profanity, it gives me a headache. I don't know what that is. I don't know. So I was definitely struggling the first couple of the first 60 to 80 pages of the book, and I was this close to tears because it was hurting my head. I had to actually read this book in doses. Yeah, but overall it did help me to at least get into the mind of someone, who struggles with like self-harm, who struggles with depression. And there was this other woman who reviewed this book, and she said like this book was 5 stars for her because she could really relate to it. And I mean, it's not 5 stars for me. I didn't really like this book, I'm gonna be honest. Like, there was just a lot. I was like, this is hard to get through, not because of the content, but because of the profanity. Like, it's really bad. And then I will put the content warnings up here from Storygraph, because whenever I want to read a book, I just like find content warnings and stuff from Storygraph. And then there were some sections where there was like some sexual scenes that took place. I think I did doggy ear some of that. So one of the places where a sexual encounter like takes place, I think, is 171 to 172. Let me just quickly read it and then I'll get back. So it seems like one of the places that I have marked is page 247 to 248 for sexual scenes. If you just want to skip those. Yeah, there's others. I just don't know where they are because I doggy-eared things for different reasons. Yeah, the relationship that Charlie had with Riley just got really toxic, codependent. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. It wasn't healthy. Yeah, it wasn't healthy at all, and it wasn't good. And I'm glad that ended because both of them are both of them need to be helped and both of them need to be helped in the different areas that they have issues in. So that, if they ever get back together, that it's a bit better, and they're not so codependent on one another, and then things just like completely blow up where, because he was also a bit physically abusive to her, like close to the end before they like broke up. Like, and I don't know if it was because he was on drugs or what was going on. Like, first off, he cheated on her with his dealer. Oh my goodness, he cheated on Charlie with his dealer, and Charlie walked in on them, having sexual relations. It was so bad. And like, Blue was also there, but Blue was on the floor and she was out because she had also taken the drugs. Yeah, both of them, Blue, Riley, Charlie, issues. Both of them have, all 3 of these people have issues in so many different categories. At least Blue does want to get better, and so does Charlie, so they do help each other out close to the end. And they become like family basically, which is, I'm like, oh, cute, man. And then obviously Charlie and Riley, they broke up. It was a very explosive breakup, really, really bad. But at least it happened because, yeah, they were not a good match together. At least in the states that they were in, it was not good at all. Very toxic, very codependent on one another. And also, again, it was like less than the bare minimum. I can't even say the bare minimum, because the bare minimum is like good things. Okay, like, that's why I'm like, guys, this whole thing of that's the bare minimum. I'm like, yeah, the bare minimum is what makes relationships, guys. Kind to you, sweet to you, does not treat you like trash. Just those bare minimum things are like necessary for relationships to thrive. So bare minimum shouldn't be an insult. So he was not hitting the bare minimum. Okay, he was not doing the things he's supposed to do, like the foundation. The bare minimum is most people call it. He wasn't doing that. She wasn't doing that. Both of them were not doing that. So the relationship was really bad. I'm glad they broke up. They broke up in a terrible way though. I wish it had been done much better, because they shouldn't have even gotten into a relationship in the first place, because I was so confused. I'm like, so when did you guys become boyfriend and girlfriend? Because she was just calling him his boyfriend after they had sex together, and I was like, wait, what? did you guys even talk about that? But anyway, and then I'm at the end of the book, we start learning a little bit more about Linus, because Linus is also someone who works at the True Grit, the coffee house that Riley, Charlie, and work at. She works with them, and we see here that Linus is also someone who had some issues in the past. I think was it alcohol? Yeah, I think she had alcohol. She was an alcoholic, and she has to do certain things quite frequently in order to prevent her from going back to the dark times. And Linus has kids, and her kids, her relationship with her children is not really great, because obviously she was a terrible parent to her kids when she was an alcoholic. She's recovering, of course, and it's interesting to see how, like, Charlie didn't think that Linus had any problems. She couldn't even imagine Linus behaving like the way Charlie and Riley were behaving, when they're under the influence and all that kind of stuff. But like, Linus is a recovering alcoholic, and she was just showing here, there's a conversation that they had together. I just wanted to read it because I was like, wow. So yeah, because I'm just worried about time. So I'm like, should I read it? Should I not read it? I don't know. But it says here, in Albuquerque, Tanner takes the back seat. So this is like close to the end of the book. This is page 368. Falls asleep. Linus shoves the bag of pork rinds in my direction. Rinds? What are pork rinds? Okay. I pour some into the palm of my hand. Linus, I say softly, why are you helping me? You don't even know me. And I've been so selfish. Like, I've never even asked you anything about yourself. And I'm sorry. That was crappy. She said Shitty. I take a breath. That's what I wanted to say. Her cheek is fat with food, like a squirrel's. She swallows. I drank my kids away from me. All those years I spent trying to get sober, they stayed with their dad, and they didn't want to see me. And rightfully so. I did some truly horrible things that still make me want to puke with shame when I think about them. She wipes her mouth with the back of her hand. Life without a mom is crappy. They're mad. They're coming around, but real slow. They're good kids though, which makes me think they have some kindness along the way, like kickstarts of help and love. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm helping you. I don't know the story of your mom, but I have to believe she's hoping somebody is looking out for you. I crush the rinds in my hand, lick the pebbles from my palm. My mother doesn't like that. My mother doesn't think like that. Linus is quiet for a long time before she answers. Yes, she does. Someday, if you decide to have kids, you'll know what I mean. And it'll knock you down. It'll knock you down flat on your butt. So I was just reading that, and I was just thinking, yeah, I think the reason why Linus said, yeah, her mom does, is because Linus is a mom, and she's probably thinking her kids probably think like Charlie, in terms of like her children are probably thinking that their mother didn't care for them or doesn't love them. But like, Linus was a mess back then, and she still cares for her kids. And I think even in her mess, she probably still cared for her kids. And I think the same can be said for Charlie's mother. Even though Charlie's mother was abusive, Charlie's mother just like shut down completely. She no longer became a capable parent. Even in all of that, she probably still wants the best for Charlie. She probably still wants Charlie to thrive. But, she's not able to take care of Charlie because she can't even take care of herself. She's deteriorating. She's a mess. So yeah, so I think there's just a lot you could learn from this book. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but I guess from that one review that I did watch of the girl who is similar to Charlie, I think for people who do struggle self-harm or depression, I think this might be something that might just help you a little bit and help you to see that even when life sucks, even when life is horrible and all that kind of stuff, that there is hope, that things can get better, but you have to try and you have to make the changes yourself, because it's not going to just get better if you reject help from everybody. You have to accept the help from people who can help you. Don't accept the help of people who you know are in the same situation as you and who are not trying to get better. Accept help from people who are outside of the situation and who are trying to help you. And then maybe I also accept help from people who are in the same situation as you, where you guys are both struggling, but maybe it's different struggles and you're trying to keep each other accountable. Get help from those guys. Don't try and do things yourself. It's not gonna work. Yeah, and you'll inevitably end up falling back into your old ways. So yeah, it was quite interesting read. Yeah, it was an interesting read. I don't know if I'll ever read this again, probably not, but it was a little bit, it helped me a little bit to learn more about self-harm and what that all encompasses and entails. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you in another one. Bye, guys.